I just want to go back to an issue relating to the high-level intelligence that you received and which involves a prosecutor in the NPA. Do you recall that?
Mm-hmm.
And your initial answer was that this prosecutor was under suspension. I then asked you, and you didn't have to answer it because it wasn't a DPP who would have to be suspended by the president, and this particular person was not suspended by the president. And the reason that you advanced for not wanting to disclose that prosecutor's name was because the matter was under investigation. Now, if that prosecutor was under suspension, that prosecutor, you'll accept, would be entitled to know what the reasons were for the suspension.
That is correct, but I must explain that the suspension does not relate to this particular case. They are two separate cases.
Well, that is what I wanted to understand, because I had also asked you, well, if the suspension doesn't relate to any of these 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿𝐴 allegations, then what was the reason for not disclosing the person's name? Then you said no, but the person was also being investigated for those other reasons, the high-level intelligence that you received, but that the person was not even aware of it. That was this morning. Later, we were told, and the reasons that you gave were then accepted by the committee, was that this person is not under suspension and was being, but because the person was being investigated and was not even aware of the investigation, that to disclose that person's name would jeopardize the investigation.
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah, but it seems to me that there's a difference in the reasons that you gave earlier today and the one subsequently. I can understand that someone is being investigated, is not even being told that he or she is being investigated, because it may jeopardize the investigation and jeopardize or threaten the lives of potential witnesses in the office, etc., etc. But that's not how it came across earlier.
Chair, it may not have come across, but that is the fact, is that the person is not aware of this particular investigation, but is under suspension for another matter.
So the person is under, because what I wanted to then conclude on is that if the person is not under suspension and is being investigated in relation to a really serious issue that you got at a high level, and this person is still working. So the person is not working.
That's correct.
Okay. Then just moving on to the Kumalo issue, much has said that what triggered Lieutenant General Nkosazana's 6 July media appearance and statement was a directive that disestablished, or that purported to disestablish the PKTT, issued on the 31st of December 2024 by the minister, the then Minister Mkhunu. And before that, there was also a raid on Molefe on the 6th of December, which also involved the PKTT. And then subsequently, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi had asked the minister to meet with him to discuss this directive to disband, and he was ignored. And subsequently, he then requested an affidavit from General Masemola, the National Police Commissioner, to give him an affidavit relating to the directive, which, by the way, we're still waiting for, and that was given to him on the 4th of July. And all those factors informed his decision to go public on the 6th of July. Now, were you not aware of any of these events?
I wasn't.
Okay. Because another theory is or might be, because this is all about, and that's what we're trying to do, and the committee is trying to put everything together, so-called joining the dots. Did the arrest of Lieutenant General Kumalo on the 28th of June, which you were aware of, did that perhaps trigger the media statement of Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, that this was in response to his arrest on the 28th of June?
Chair, I can't make that conclusion because I don't know what triggered it, but those are the two facts that we have. But I don't know, I cannot comment on that. I really don't know.
Now, you had said in your evidence earlier that Advocate Johnson had discussed this Kumalo issue with you at a high level. Is that right? Now, two things arise from that. If the allegation was made, if it's true that this arrest of Lieutenant General Kumalo was actually to aid this drug syndicate in the work that they were doing, in some, I must say, perverse way, and you were aware of his arrest, then you would be complicit in it, isn't it? I mean, that kind of logic.
If I was aware that the reason why the IDAC was proceeding with the case against Kumalo was in order to protect organized criminals, then yes, I would be complicit in that.
The other aspect that arises from that is, what now happens when there is a review, which in the ordinary course will come to you as the NDPP in relation to the Kumalo case or the Kumalo arrest, when you had already discussed this at a high level, even at a high level with Advocate Johnson, would you not have to recuse yourself? Are you not biased one way or the other in relation to conducting a review of that matter?
Chair, and that is precisely why I get very high-level reports and not the detail of evidence. A review is a very intense process whereby the National Director looks at every aspect of the evidence and makes a decision. And that is why it's only a high level. So I do not express support for it in the sense of I'm aware of the evidence and that, you know, I have sanctioned it, so to speak, because then it would mean that I could potentially be biased. And so there's absolutely no conflict. And that is why we have really made sure that even though we put in place systems and processes, and there may be instances where the National Director asks for reports, I do not go into the detail of evidence so that when there is, if there is a review, I can act totally objectively in the matter and assess the evidence objectively.
But Advocate Batohi, we also know that there is a thing called, in law or in legal circles, institutional bias. Why would you uphold a review based on a complaint by an accused when Advocate Johnson has already discussed this matter with you at a high level? She's a colleague of yours. They do important work. Despite the fact that you now have to do a more detailed analysis of the case and go really into the, roll up your sleeves, go into the facts of the matter and so on, why would you want to rule, as it were, either uphold or reject a review?
Because I take my oath of office seriously, and I know the implications of a person being wrongfully prosecuted. So it may not be a situation that a DPP has made the decision incorrectly. It could be reasonable minds could differ and a different approach. So there have been instances where I have overturned the decision of DPPs to prosecute. And so it happens. And, you know, as a national director, I'm expected to ensure that, you know, my oath of office is important. And as I said, our prosecutorial decisions are powerful and they have impact on the lives of people. And we must make sure we get it right.
Hopefully you understand that I raise this as a genuine concern.
Understand that.
In the same way that IDEC investigates and prosecutes. We know of many instances, probably best seen in the movies, where prosecutors manipulate investigations. They manipulate, or they ask specifically for certain evidence because they want to prosecute successfully a person, either for ideological reasons, political reasons, or for reasons that they want to nail this person. That also is a possibility arising from this model.
We've seen that in our country even without this model. Yeah. So it can happen, and it has happened. That's why we have these processes like review processes to ensure that these things the risk is minimized. But of course, that is
because
possible.
I think that's the issue. It's the risk, given that I think you've accepted and this honorable committee has heard how divided our police force is, and that now the head of crime intelligence has been arrested. The extent to which it has paralyzed our crime intelligence, we don't know, even though an acting person has been appointed. But the head of our crime intelligence is not allowed to go to his office. He can't access the work that needs to be done, although he has not been suspended. So that risk seems to me even bigger.
Chair, it would happen.
It's a comment. If you want to
Sure.
comment on it, you may.
No, then I would prefer not.
You would
to.
rather not. It's late. Just lastly on the, again on Kumalo, it seems to me well sort of accepted that he was arrested because a complaint was laid by Honourable Member Adams from some information that was apparently slipped under his door. But we also know from the evidence that there were 6 dockets because he complained here in Cape Town, he complained in Gauteng, and he was frustrated because he wasn't getting a response. And eventually he wrote to the minister. And the minister then referred this matter to IDEC, and Adams, Honourable Member Adams, he then referred the matter in terms of Section 27 of the Act, and that triggered this investigation. But what I want to ask you is the fact is, however, that Lieutenant General Kumalo was arrested in relation to a docket and a different case number that was opened at the Brooklyn police station. It's not any of this. There were 3 Cape Town dockets, 3 Gauteng dockets. None of these dockets. Can you explain that? Is there a reason for that procedure? And that the docket, sorry, just to complete, to be fair, the docket is opened in June. Hence his arrest on the 25th of June. It's opened only in June. These are dockets that were opened in November. The complaint, the Section 27 complaint came in November, went to Advocate Johnson on the 16th, I think, of November for further investigation. She then requested further documentation from the National Police Commissioner. This was in January, but then a new docket gets opened in June. Should we read anything into that? Is there anything sinister in that? Anything unusual?
From my recollection of what Advocate Johnson said to me, and I cannot remember the details, she seemed to suggest that there was something sinister about it. And I would propose that, she submits that in writing to the committee, because the details are rather intricate and I don't understand it. She understands it better, but that was the impression that I got.
The Honourable Committee has, and in fact, we were told that Honourable Member Adams had submitted another affidavit which she styled or called a supplementary affidavit. But when I pointed out to her that, the detailed charge sheet with a summary of the facts that you give to an accused person, I said, but there's no reference in the charge sheet to any of the 6 dockets. Anyway, we've requested that affidavit, and I think it was sent today, and we haven't had a look at it.
She said she's not going to send the referral to us. She can't.
Yeah. Thank you, Advocate Batohi. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you for your time, and all the best for the remainder of your time in office.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Honourable Chair.
How many days are left in office, Advocate?